obviously it's Dad and I, but we've got Mom,
Hi.
Becki Barsness here, who helps Dad out with getting all of his money for all the jobs that he does, saying it pretty plain. So Dad's going to take over, and they're going to talk a little bit about what they do to make sure they get paid. So go ahead.
So, we always talk a lot about getting work because we focus a lot on direct email marketing. And that's what VO Marketing Pro does. It tries to get people work consistently, get clients so you can get work. So there's three things. There's getting work, there's doing work, and then there is getting paid for the work that you do. So it's important, obviously, to get the work because you can't do the work if you don't get the work. And it's important to do the work and, of course, do a good job. But then third, it's important to make sure that you get paid for the work that you do. I know, not to go off on a tangent here right away, but I know there's a local businessman that I remember telling me years ago. He was a very small business, but he had like $5,000 on the books. And he was probably only, maybe getting paid for $7,000 or $8,000. So well over half of his money was on the books. And a lot of it was because he didn't know how to do it, didn't have a good system. He didn't like that part of collecting money. And I don't know of too many people that really like collecting money, except for Mom. Mom kind of likes it, don't you?
Yeah, I've grown to like it.
Yeah,
Well, then go ahead.
It's easy to like getting your money. It's not fun in the fact that you have to remind people sometimes and you feel a little bit like you're annoying them, but it is nice to, when you've done a job, then you send out an invoice or a reminder because it's like, well, looking forward to that money, cha-ching, going into my bank account. So anyway.
And I think it's the way that we've decided to make sure we get paid. There's a system, not only the kind of the actual system that we do, but it's also the mentality that we have of, staying on top of it so that it doesn't get out of hand, keeping on top of it, and then, of course, treating clients properly. And we'll discuss that throughout this interview. And I say we because I don't really have that much to do with it. You do the vast, vast majority and do a great job. But we started my voiceover business in August of 2011. And at that point, our oldest son, John, we didn't have a ton of work, but he was sending out invoices on my behalf. And the system was very simple. And maybe you could just kind of highlight what we did back then, because you took over for that. And it was simple for a fair amount of years after that until we started to really grow. So maybe you can do that and I can help you remember some things. But I know you've got some notes there too, so feel free to check those out.
Yeah. Jonathan started out by just having a simple Word document invoice. And the invoice would, of course, be billed once the project was completed. And then he had 3 folders. He had an unsent folder, which the invoice would go into once it had been billed. And then there was a sent folder and then a paid folder. And we send invoices out once a week. And, that's not set in stone. People sometimes will ask for the invoice to be sent right away. But in a general way, it was once a week. And so once the invoice was sent, it was then put into the sent folder. And once the invoice was paid, it went into the paid folder. And at that point in time, we just noted on there the date that it was paid, the amount, and the invoice number. And then that just made it nice and simple.
I think a lot of people, which isn't a bad thing, do what you want to do. But a lot of people think that they have to have some sort of an electronic thing that's real, easy to use, which is, again, it's fine. But we used just spreadsheets and Word document.
That's what I use.
Quite a long time. You still do?
Because I don't have a whole lot of, a lot of my clients are good at paying me.
Right.
And so when I send out an invoice, it's for just my direct email clients because Fiverr and Upwork take care of doing that for me. They keep track of it. They keep track of how much they take, stuff like that. So at this point, I don't have, like you guys, a lot of different clients that maybe some of them are a little bit slower at getting it out, or they are busy, so they forget. So I haven't had a whole lot of experience with having to remind and remind. So mine's a little bit less detailed than yours is, probably because I just don't have as many clients right now, but I do the same thing.
But you want to keep it, I think you want to keep it as simple as possible, especially when it can be simple. And so that's what we did, just kind of did it the old-fashioned way. Was there anything else that you wanted to mention before we move on to that second part?
Yeah, and I guess, again, it fit into our motto, if you were, or our wordage of, if you have more time than money, which is what we had in the very beginning, then this is a great thing to get started with. And it's not real complicated. And so, yeah, that's what we did.
Because Word document usually comes on Microsoft, or you can get it for cheap, and other types of automated things, like in our case, QuickBooks, which we'll talk about shortly, that costs monthly. And it's not ridiculous, but at that point we had more time than money. And so we would use the time to actually type those Word documents out, put them in different folders, and then keep track of them. Now QuickBooks does more automated stuff for us, which is nice when you're billing more. So I guess I wanted to move to that second part in our minds of getting paid. So our business started to grow. And by 2016, so basically 5 years later, that's when I cracked 100,000, 6 figures. And so in 2016, I made 137,000. In 2017, it was $201,000. And in 2018, it jumped up to $211,000. And it was at that point, 2018, and it kind of hits me a little bit that wasn't that long ago that we switched over to an automated thing. You were doing a lot of work, because that's a lot of clients to do work for. So we went to a little bit more of something that we needed to handle all of this growth in our business. We started to have more money than time. And so what did we went to QuickBooks.
Yep,
Explain a little bit about what we do with that.
Yeah, we went with QuickBooks. And the one thing nice, at least about QuickBooks, is that when you first start, you get like a 6 month, you get 50% off for starting out for the first 6 months. And I think it was like $25 for the first 6 months. And then it goes up. I don't even remember what it is right now. But it worked well for linking your invoice payments to the bank, to your bank. And there's just ease of use for the clients, because they can pay via a debit card or a credit card, and it also does bank transfers. So that just made it real nice and easy for us. And then not only did we have QuickBooks, but we also had an accountant woman that took care of checking all of the deposits that came in, all of the expenses that come in. And so when it came to tax time, all of that was already figured for us, separated by expenses and income. And that just made it even more simple for us. And then again, we were able to pay for that because we had more money than time. So that was probably the long and short of QuickBooks.
QuickBooks also allows you to, like on the dashboard or on the front page, and I'm familiar with this because sometimes I'll check, it will have several categories, and you'll have to help me out if you can remember. But one is like paid for that month, and one is unpaid, and what's on the books, those types of things. And that's kind of helpful too when you're invoicing a lot of money. And it reminds you, doesn't it? Or you can set a reminder. You can also do automated, like if you're working with somebody regularly, you can have that made out to them. You don't have to type it out each and every time and separate things. There is some management of it, but not only does it work with your bank, but you can print reports. Like I'll ask you for reports. I just asked you for one this last Friday, and you shot it out right away. Is how much have I made with voices.com, because I wanted to tell people that I was putting more effort, because Fiverr was going down a little bit, and I wanted to see what have I made. And I'm getting closer to my 2021 amount already, and it's June of 2022, and so I'm just working harder at that. But you were able to produce that for me very quickly. So I don't know if there's anything more to say about that, but it does give you some statistics, some information, and you can do a lot of filters and run reports and different things like that, that's helpful when you have a lot of money out there.
Yeah, and I think when we talk more, when we get a little bit farther as far as collections is concerned, I probably would add a little bit more as far as what QuickBooks has to offer to help with your collections.
Well, let's talk about that, because it doesn't matter what kind of billing system you have. Collecting isn't always the most fun because, one, it takes organization and discipline. And second of all, we as creative people don't always like the business side of things. We don't like the marketing side of things. We wish that people would just come to our door or email in this case and give us information. And we don't like collecting money because a lot of people don't. We like getting paid. We like getting paid, but we don't like the process of having. And so I'm very grateful for you because you're a real detailed person. I like to be behind the mic and I like to manage people. Those are my two strengths. You like details and you're very good at it. And so that was important. So tell us a little bit about, you just mentioned it, how QuickBooks helps you with that billing, all of the billing, and helps you stay organized and whatever you want to say about that.
Yeah, as far as once the invoice has been sent, you can actually see whether or not it's been viewed, when it's been viewed. Sometimes it's pretty funny. Sometimes people view it like 25 times in the same day. I'm not real sure how that happens, but you can actually track whether it's been viewed or not. And so that helps you when you're going to send out a reminder letter. But one of the things that I had to change my mind about when I was doing collections was just my frame of mind, which a couple different things would go through my mind, like, I don't understand why these people aren't paying us, or these people owe us money and I want them to pay us. But one of the things that Todd just talked with me about is realizing that people in general, they want to pay their bills and they want to be trusted. And they don't want someone to send them a reminder that's putting pressure on them in a way that is going to make them uncomfortable. Just like Todd mentioned, people get busy. Their lives are busy. They forget. And maybe I know that people in the past have had QuickBooks invoices end up in their spam or their junk just because it comes from a different email. It doesn't always look like it's coming from us. And one individual mentioned that for some reason, their email server saw it as something that was not identified. And so it would block it. So changing my mind about that and realizing that just in general, people want to pay, thinking about the fact that, I've forgotten to make a payment. And so just being welcoming with people when they don't pay, because we've just had great success with handling that way. And I know we're going to talk about that a little bit more as we go forward.
Yeah, I think we have this belief system in our minds to think the best about people. I know you can get burnt. It's the same thing that I don't require any money up front. Never have. People will once in a while say, well, do you want 50% up front? I'm talking about video production companies, people that hire me. And I say, no, I don't need that. You can pay me when. And I think that starts things out right at the right spot, because what you're saying to them is, I'm going to have a relationship with you. I trust you. You can trust me. And we're going to be business partners to help your end client. And I think that's just a wonderful way to start out. Do you get burned from time to time? Yeah. But
rare.
I mean, last year, we had, I think it was one job that we didn't get paid for.
Right.
That's $312,000 worth of invoices.
Yeah.
And we got it, maybe $300 or $400.
Yeah.
I can't even remember, but it wasn't that much. And that's, I mean, we're at 99.97. Yeah, something like that of getting paid. But here's the thing. It's not just simply, we're just lucky. Mom is very systematic, very organized, very disciplined in staying in front of them. And we do it in such a way. We don't harangue them or, say, well, you haven't paid us yet. Come on, we're going to take you to court or whatever. That doesn't work ever anyway. And we don't want to treat people that way. But tell us a little bit about, your process. It's typically 30 days that we ask people to pay, which is standard. Sometimes for bigger companies, it might be 60 or sometimes even 90. But the vast majority is 30. But how do you go about, you obviously send them a QuickBooks fairly soon after the project. And that's very important because you want them to have you and the project top of mind when they're still thinking about it, when they're still excited about it, rather than, I forgot to send them, an invoice 3 months ago. Well, they'll still probably pay you, but it's old, it's history in their mind.
Keeping it fresh.
Yeah, and they're getting paid from their end client, putting that money in the bank for that particular project, and so it's top of mind for them. So maybe there's some things you do and how you go about communicating with them. Maybe some things that you say. I know we're going to have some audio visuals that Damon's going to put on here. So maybe if there's something you want to mention with regard to that too.
Yeah. Again, like I said, each day I make out the invoice via QuickBooks, and depending on if it's a new client, QuickBooks, I'll just back up a minute. QuickBooks, when you send an invoice, there's just a sterile message in there, basically saying something to the client. And, this is an invoice from Todd Barsness, voiceover talent, and we appreciate your payment in a promptly fashion. I just don't send it out that way. When I make the invoice out, if it's a new client, then I let them know how nice it is to work with them. And I let them know that, if they have any questions regarding QuickBooks or any kind of payment method, just let me know. And then I send it out that way. If it's a client, that we've worked with for a long time, I might if we haven't worked with them for a while, I'll put a little note in there. But if it's someone we work with, let's just say 4 or 5 times a week, I'll send the invoice, and it can go out more sterile just because, again, I know them, we've worked with them, and I know that they're busy and they don't need to have, a little needy message from me. So I just send it out that way. And then once the invoice is received, you can actually see when it's been viewed, and it'll even let you know if it's been undeliverable. Again, that way, once the 30 days is up, you can take a look at the fact has that invoice even been viewed? Because there's been times when it hasn't. So you pretty much can understand that they haven't received it. Or maybe they have and they just haven't viewed it. So that helps you to make sure that the email you're sending out to them as a reminder is just going to be more centered on exactly what you want. And so when it comes to reminding them, I could send a reminder via QuickBooks, but I don't do that because, again, I want it to be an email from my email that is going to be something where I know the person and just let them know that, basically, this is Becki from Todd Barsness, voiceover talent, and hope you're having a great day. Just checking in to see whether or not this invoice has been overlooked. If it has, no problem. Or if you have the client hasn't paid you, or it's your terms are more than net 30 days, just let us know. And again, no, this isn't grumpy. This is just to let you know that we'd like you to know that the payment hasn't been received. And many, many times people get right back and they say, I am so sorry, or what, I didn't get it, but it's or we'll just get a payment right away through QuickBooks, and the person is, again, very apologetic. And again, this isn't tooting my own horn, but I did receive an email back from a man that mentioned this has got to be one of the nicest collections letters I've ever received. Yep. And so, again, you just want people to know that you want to work with them, and that that'll get them coming back. And then there are times when we have had issues where we've contacted someone maybe 3 or 4 times and just not heard anything back. Or maybe they've said, oh yeah, basically the check is in the mail, but it just goes on and on. So we have 2 options. One is that after 3 or 4 back and forth, you just decide you're not going to continue to do that. You don't have the time or the energy, or even the money in that sense. But we'll do a write-off, and that's not always fun. But again,
on our taxes,
on our taxes,
because that's a business expense that we can put on when we're not paid for something.
Yeah,
you should.
Yep. And then lastly, there have been people that we've sent reminders to, and again, just not heard anything back. But they've been people we've worked with before, and they'll get back to us, but it'll be through the form of wanting Todd to do a project. And so we've just agreed that we'll be in contact back. Todd and I will keep in contact as far as whether or not that person has paid. And if he says, has this person paid that outstanding invoice, we'll just, say yes or no. And then if it's no, the project, Todd lets the person know, I'll be happy to do the project, but we do have an outstanding invoice. And they've always paid it. And then the next time they've paid it too. So again, one person in 2021 that didn't pay. And overall, I would say there have been 4 to 5 people that haven't paid. So that's pretty good.
Is there ever a time where that happens, like Mom just said, where somebody hasn't paid you and they say, hey, we got another thing for you? Do you ever not threaten them, but just say, looking forward to working with you again, but I'm not going to be working with you until you pay me for that past project? Is that kind of what you say? Is that kind of what she was saying?
Yeah.
I'd like to work with you, but there's still an outstanding.
I don't think I'd have to have Mom help me, but I think we go the extra mile. For one thing, we are patient and kind. We put the onus on ourselves. We stay in front of them. We don't bug them. So it's not like, they don't have any excuse. But if they come back multiple times and it's like pulling teeth, then like if there's an outstanding one, I would say, we want to work with you, but there's this, and we've reminded you. There's a line you have to have, and I understand that. We're not trying to say that you never stand up for yourself. We do. We just do it in such a way that's appealing to people. It puts the onus on us. It's a soft sell marketing thing because nobody wants to be bothered. And if our basic thought is, I think these people want to do what's right, I think they want to pay us, then that's going to serve you well. You can't be naive, though. And in the business world, you've got to also come to the point sometimes, your point and Mom's point, where you draw the line in the sand and you say, if this is the way it's going to be, I can't work with you anymore. Sure. Because we're not going to keep writing things off and working for, quote, free or half price or whatever we get from the IRS for writing that off. So yes, but that's so rare. Sure. It's just so rare. And a couple of other things, and you can add some things too, Becki, if you want. One of the things that I remember is that the people that are my clients, not the end clients, but the people in between, the video production companies, ad agencies and such, they're creatives too. A lot of them say, I just hate this side of the business. I just hate paying bills. And, I'm sorry, I haven't got my checkbook out for the last month. I'll pay you right away. They like to be behind the camera in the editing suite, doing storyboards. They like all that kind of stuff. They don't picking out music. They don't want to be paying bills and stuff, but they have to because they're a business, just like we have to because we're a business. And so helping them in that way and being a service to them and not haranguing them, I think that's important too. But I can't say it enough that one of the things you do very well is you do soft sell marketing on every invoice. And it's not weird. It's not, we're looking forward to working with you and please hire us. It's not that stuff. We just really enjoyed working with you. Thanks so much for your business. And let us know if you need some help. Those types of things. Those are things that resonate with people. And so does being a partner with them. So I guess one of the things we want to really communicate in getting paid for your work is try to give them that we're in this together. We're business partners. You're trying to, help your end clients, impress their clients. We're trying to help you impress your end client. And all we want to do is get paid for it. And so we're here to help you do that. So anything else?
Yeah, I guess, again, just that in doing so, we want people to succeed. We want them to do well. And that's why there's a difference in our minds with if you have more time than money, then the Word documents or whatever form you might have. Maybe it's Excel spreadsheet like Hudson has, but or if it's QuickBooks. But again, it's important to be organized. You have to be organized to keep it going.
Yep, organized and disciplined. It's part of being in business. And Demond will be putting up some things here,
Points,
like some
that.
points and also some visual aids to some like sample email and some things like that. And this isn't an advertisement for QuickBooks. I know there are other online
we don't get
marketing things. Yeah, we're not getting
anything
paid.
from
It's just
them.
the ones that we. It's just the one that we use, and it's simple for us, and it works for us, and so that's why we're talking about QuickBooks and Microsoft Word. So I don't know if you have anything else. If not, we'll close things up.
Nope,
But
that's
thank
it.
you for
Yeah, thanks
being with
for-
us. Again, it's getting the work. It's getting the work done, and it's getting paid for the work that's done. That's this whole idea. That's something that I think is missing in voiceover business. And so we just wanted to come to the folks and tell them about how we do it. If you have questions or comments, we'd be glad to hear them, glad to field them, and help out in any way we can.
Any help that we can give, we'd be happy to. Even if it's keeping a spreadsheet, Excel spreadsheet like I do. I know that saved me this year with my taxes, that I had a detailed thing. So anyway, all good?
Good.
Yep.
Well, thank you guys for joining us. Mom, thanks for bringing that stuff, and we'll see you later.